A thick set of forearms can change your physique. They make your arms look bigger in a t-shirt. But forearm training is confusing. Grippers, rice buckets, wrist rollers, dead hangs, fat grips, plate pinches, reverse curls, wrist curls. Which actually deserves your time? Remember one thing from this video. Bigger forearms come from training the biggest forearm muscles directly, not collecting random grip tools. There are three main kinds of grip. Support grip is what you use in a deadlift. Pinch grip is what you use in a plate pinch. Crush grip is what you use with a gripper. These can matter for strength and sports, but they are a poor target for hypertrophy. Most grip tools simply train finger flexion. They train you to close the hand, hold an object, or stop the hand from opening. That matters, but finger flexion only trains a fraction of the forearm. So, those tools can build some muscle, but they aren't usually the best path. Organize forearm training by function. The forearms contribute to finger flexion and extension, thumb flexion and extension, wrist flexion and extension, elbow flexion, pronation and supination, radial deviation, and ulnar deviation. For size, 5 of these functions matter most. Finger flexion, wrist extension, elbow flexion for the brachioradialis, and optionally pronation. Here's a rough percentage of the forearm musculature each function will train, derived from anatomical studies. The big idea is simple. Most forearm growth comes from flexion and extension work, and that hierarchy matters. Most lifters do not need more random exercises in their routine. They need to focus on the big rocks. That is exactly what I built MyoAdapt to do. MyoAdapt gives you evidence-based training built around your goals, recovery, and schedule. You can emphasize your forearms and it will choose the right exercises, volume, and progression to maximize muscle growth. So you know what to train, how much to do, and when to push. You can try it at myoadapt.com with code WOLF for 2 weeks free. And if you want that same science applied personally, I also offer one-to-one coaching. Finally, for gym clothing, I recommend Rascal Apparel. Use code WOLF for 10% off at rascalapparel.com. All links are in the description. First, finger flexion. This closes the fingers. Contrary to popular belief, the biggest finger flexors sit in your forearm, not your hand. In contrast to intrinsic muscles inside the hand, these are called extrinsic muscles. They flex the 4 fingers. The group of muscles responsible for finger flexion make up the biggest chunk of your forearms and add a ton of thickness to the underside of the forearm. The best tool is dynamic finger flexion under load. Use a wrist curl that involves finger flexion. Lower the dumbbell, let the wrist extend, let the dumbbell roll toward your fingers, then curl the fingers closed before curling the wrist back up. This trains finger flexion and wrist flexion together. It also gives the finger flexors a bigger stretch, since most muscles share both functions. A solid isolation exercise would be an isolated finger flexion dumbbell curl. Second, wrist flexion. This bends the wrist toward the palm. It trains much of the inner forearm. Use a stretch-biased wrist curl. An incline or vertical setup increases tension in the stretch. Support the arm. Let the wrist extend at the bottom. Pause for a split second, then curl up hard. The goal is to isolate the wrist flexors and finger flexors. Third, wrist extension. This bends the wrist backward. It trains the top side of the forearm. Most lifters undertrain it. If you only do wrist curls and gripping, your forearm plan is incomplete. Use incline or vertical dumbbell wrist extensions. Support the arm, let the wrist flex at the bottom, then extend up. Control on the way down and pause for a split second at the bottom. Fourth, the brachioradialis. This is the thumb side ridge near the elbow. It gives the upper outer forearm its thickness. Its main job is elbow flexion. Hammer curls and reverse curls are common choices for the brachioradialis, but the evidence that they grow the brachioradialis better than normal curls is weak and speculative. So don't overcomplicate it. Use a curl that loads the stretch well. A few studies have suggested that curl variations that load the stretch more bias growth of the brachialis and brachioradialis. Use a curl that feels good. Preacher curls and crossbench curls are my top picks for the brachioradialis. Add these if your upper outer forearm lags. Or you can skip it if your bicep training already covers it well. Fifth, pronation. This turns the palm downward. The visible target is mostly pronator teres, near the upper inner forearm. Pronation is useful for completeness, but it is not a foundation. Use offset dumbbell pronations or cable pronations. Offset dumbbell pronations naturally bias the stretch. Past neutral, gravity starts resisting the wrong direction. Cables are smoother, but they lack the stretch bias. Here's an easy muscle map to memorize. Top of the forearm, extensors. Underside, flexors. Thumb side ridge, brachioradialis. Upper inner forearm, pronator teres. Train the underside with finger and wrist flexion. Train the top with wrist extension. Train the outer ridge with curls. Train the upper inner area with pronation if you want completeness. Now, let's discuss common training tools. Grippers are fine accessories, but they only train the finger flexors, and with no stretch. Dead hangs are a decent option, but they fatigue other muscles too. Wrist rollers train wrist flexion and extension, but they are less isolated than supported wrist curls. They add shoulder and bicep fatigue. They don't allow for biasing resistance on the stretch either. Rice buckets are another popular tool online. They work by resisting movement through drag and friction. That resistance scales with velocity, so moving faster makes the exercise harder. Combine that with being able to train all the functions of the forearm at once with omnidirectional resistance, and you have a decent jack-of-all-trades exercise. But that is also the problem. Because rice buckets train many functions at once, one small function can train before the bigger forearm muscles are close to failure. The bigger issue is load. Rice bucket training is usually very low load. Low load training can build muscle, but only if you push close to failure. That is where rice buckets struggle. To make the set hard enough, you usually need very fast movement, very long sets, or both. Instead, the set is usually very long and limited by discomfort before you can be confident the target muscle is actually near failure. Research I co-authored shows most people struggle to hit failure with longer sets. What about increasing resistance? Well, your hands can only move so fast, so that's out of the question. The resistance also depends on depth, packing, and range, so it's hard to standardize, hard to overload, and hard to load the stretch position well. These tools are not useless. They are just not the way to build the biggest forearms possible. So, the exercise foundation is simple. Finger flexion wrist curls, wrist extensions, curls for the brachioradialis, and optionally pronations. But let's talk about how to put these into practice. Here's a starter routine if you've never trained your forearms directly or just want consistent growth with minimum effort. Twice per week, superset wrist curls and wrist extensions. Do 2 to 3 sets of each. Start with 10 to 15 reps. Go heavier if you prefer. Take sets to failure or very close. Rest 0 seconds between exercises. Then rest about 60 seconds before repeating the same muscle. For extra efficiency, add stretched partials after failure or do the whole set as partials for all forearm work. Add brachioradialis work if needed. Do 2 to 3 sets of crossbench curls or preacher curls twice per week. You can skip this if you already do plenty of bicep work. You can add pronation if you want completeness. Do 2 to 3 sets of offset dumbbell or cable pronations twice per week. Start with 10 to 15 reps. Add sets only when performance allows. If reps and load are rising, add some sets. If progress stalls, stay there. For specialization, build toward 5 to 10 sets of wrist curls and wrist extension per workout. Superset them across 2 to 6 sessions per week. Add 5 to 10 sets of stretch bias curls per workout, 2 to 3 times per week if needed. Add 5 to 10 sets of pronations per workout, 2 to 6 times per week if you want completeness and maximum development. If you remember one thing from this video, it should be this. Train your forearms like any other muscle. Train finger flexion, wrist extension, pronation, and the brachioradialis first. Everything else isn't worth worrying about. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in that next one. Peace.